I have a special episode for you today. I am going to be interviewing and interviewed by Courtney, who is a fellow student, a PhD candidate in the same program that I am in, and she is also a carnivore. And we just happenstance to be put in the same class together in our same final in our integrative and functional nutrition program. And we decided to do this in tandem and be our emotional support because, believe it or not, they don't just hand out PhDs. You have to earn them. And it is very stressful. So you will see on the bottom here, I and Courtney will be having a discussion about things and people and places and all sorts of different things. And meanwhile, I'm going to build a fire and I'm going to smoke some bison, some Colorado bison. Interestingly enough, side note, how to get rid of gamey flavor starts with the processing of the animal. So not only does cooling off the animal after it is killed very vital, but also how it's processed afterwards. You definitely want to process it correctly because if it sits, then the enzymes and the bacteria break the muscle structure down and it gives it its gamey flavor. And some people have problems with aged meat as well. So the fresher the meat, the better. I like game, wild game in particular, but I also buy bison and lamb and fish. I also love to go fishing. So if anybody knows of any good fishing holes, please write in the comments below. Meanwhile, listen to the interview.
Hey, friends, welcome back to the Holistic Carnivore. I'm Courtney, and today we are here with a dear friend of mine, the Ketoing Viking.
Hello, all of my Viking friends. I am so glad you can join us today. We have such a great episode to start off with. We are actually going to talk about our PhD program where we met, and we are going to go into some topics and go crazy on this. So stay tuned.
Yeah, so, Misty, it's crazy that I don't know how we just realized very recently that we have been actually colleagues for what, 3 years now?
3 years. Yeah.
How I
Yeah.
don't really know how that happens. I mean, I guess it's really easy to, like, kind of blame it on the digital age and, like, the reality of, like, doing school online, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because I don't think we're out and about. There's no campus per
Yeah.
se. We are all using our laptops and our computers, and we get shuffled into these classes. And really, we are at the mercy of the institution itself,
Mhm.
who we talk to, who we know. And I have made glorious friends along the way. Some of them, they are absolutely fantastic. Some of them I have lost touch with. So
Yeah.
it's just a journey. And I have found you and I have fostered this friendship that I think we're going to
I love
grow
it.
old and throw axes together at each other's headstones or something because
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully, we'll have a better, like, proclivity to a friendship than throwing axes to each other's headstones.
oh, I love you. So,
But
so
I could see us
Vikings
going I
used
could
to.
see us going hiking or, like, hitting the slopes together, like, yeah, totally. I mean, you're into the same kinda things that I am, so
So
why
the
not?
Viking funeral, hear me out, hear me out. They used to put the body inside of a ship and then they used to
Mhm.
send it out to sea and then shoot flaming arrows at it. How cool would that be? I
That is
would
kinda
love
cool.
that funeral.
Yeah, 100%. So, tell me a little bit more since I mean, you're here, you got your keto Viking makeup on. Tell me all about it. Like, how did you get started on the ketovore or the ketoing Viking?
The Ketoing Viking. So my family on my mother's side is from Norway. And crazy enough, all of their traditions and stuff like that have been kind of trickled on down. I wish I would have learned more Norwegian as I continued to grow up. But when I was in Norway, I was just in Norway for about 2 weeks total. I want to go back.
Wow.
This was 20 some years ago now. Anyway, I met all of my relatives out there. Fascinating people,
Mm.
fascinating lifestyle, everything like that. And we come from a lineage of the Viking ancestry.
Cool.
And then I know, right? So I get to hear, and I grew up in America, but I've always loved and always been fascinated by the Viking ancestry. And at the same time, I do love America. I'll just put that out there. But but if I could go back in time, that would be my favorite era to live in. Women were treated very respectfully. There
Mm.
was a democracy. There was such a camaraderie
Yeah.
among all the Vikings, except amongst themselves, the Danes and the Swedish and stuff. They fought amongst the tribes, but other
Mhm.
than that, it was actually a very, very fair and loving time, and they bathed a lot.
Which, like, all of that really kinda goes against, like, what we know and how, like, familiar we are with the Viking lifestyle, so that's really
Right.
interesting to hear because, like, when you picture Vikings, like, it's very barbaric, right? It's
Oh,
very
yeah.
aggressive. You think ships out at sea for, maybe years,
Months. Yeah.
right? And,
Yeah.
you know, you think of things like scurvy and disease spreading within that really small population, and it's really interesting to hear that they actually had democracy and women's rights, and, things that
Oh,
we
yeah.
are currently fighting for, right, in today's
Exactly.
society.
A woman could divorce her husband just by looking at him and saying, "You're done."
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
You know, whereas how many years did it take for Americans to get there?
Yeah, it's definitely not that simple these days.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, they were far advanced for their time.
Mhm.
And I would love to go back and actually sit and watch the whole thing happen. And they
Yeah.
had war down, they had all sorts of diplomacy down, they had it all down before we even could think
Mhm.
about ourselves. So very interesting time. And another known fact is,
Mhm.
or a little known fact is, they were also ahead of their time as far as blacksmithing. They
Mm.
folded graphite in on itself, and I'm not sure of the process. I'm gonna have to learn the process, but they
Yeah.
have a sword making and a knife making process
Mm.
where what they would do is they would strengthen the steel, and
Mhm.
they would fold it in on itself to layer it, and then put the blade uh, edge on it, and it would stay sharp even if they were slashing and cutting and stuff like that.
Oh,
Whereas,
wow.
but it was flexible enough where it wouldn't break.
Mhm.
So if you went to other places in the same era, other places would have cutlery and various steel making that would, if hit hard enough, would shatter or break,
Wow.
or it would bend so much it would flex, and then it would put a bend in it and ruin it.
Mm.
So, and always the edge would then chip or shatter.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was a very complex society, and they had these tool makings that were just so sophisticated for their time.
Centuries ago, we've got these really, like, primitive, humans
Yeah,
who
exactly.
had such advanced technologies, and, it kinda goes forth with the lifestyle that I think you and I are kind of, like, trying to advocate for now and kind of getting back to those, like, primitive roots, right?
Right.
And what was the keto or I keep saying the keto because the keto Viking is your
Right.
whole name, but, like, what was that Viking diet like? I know that we're gonna talk more about nutrition in a little while, but I'm curious, what were the Vikings eating?
Okay, so the Vikings were, besides the nomadic tribes, they were mostly fishermen.
Mm,
So their primary diet was fish and wild game, but they
mhm,
also farmed too. So they would have pig and sheep, depending on where they went,
right.
but pig and sheep. I'm not sure if they ate dog or not. That was another thing that I was
Mm,
kind of unclear on. But
mhm,
seals, or some of the marine life that would
mhm.
go in, they did eat whales. So that was that. But
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking, more than 1,000 years ago.
Mhm.
And they did have a short growing season, so they did farm a couple of things. And there's different berries and stuff that grow up there in the wild tundra. So their season only lasts from arguably about March till about September, and then it snows for the rest of the year.
Mhm.
So cloudberries and lingonberries, raspberries, all of those were common
Mhm.
foraging tools. They also had a little bit of oats and a little bit of wheat, but it was not what we have today. The genetic makeup for this stuff, it was very hard, very crass, very hard to mill oats and stuff like that. They did have a porridge kind of mixture, but they added a lot of meat or tallow, or they could add berries into it. And then they made cheese. And the
Mhm.
funniest part about the Vikings were they would take their cheeses to different places, and there were a lot of lactose intolerant people around.
Yeah.
So people around, like for example, France and other places, they thought that the Vikings were playing pranks on them when the Vikings would arrive with cheese and say, here's some cheese, and then all of a sudden some back end problems would happen and everything like that. And so the Vikings were like, "What's your problem?" And down it with mead, right?
I mean, because they're used to that, their bodies were
Right.
adapt to that, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. There's
It's a great parting gift. Please feel free to drive by with some cheese and meat. Like, I'll take that charcuterie board. Thank you very much.
right.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah. So
on a
that's
plank, you know?
right. Exactly. Exactly. So this is primarily what they ate, and all of the documentation from that era, everybody would agree these were big people, but not fat. They were sturdy,
No.
just
Athletic build.
very athletic built, very
Mhm.
tall, very robust
Rugged.
for stature, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even the women, very sturdy and very healthy. There
Right.
are numerous reports from various monks. These invaders would come in, and their folk did not stand a chance whatsoever. They're
Mhm.
eating porridge every day, whereas the Vikings came in,
Mhm.
off of their long ships eating fish for
Mhm.
3 months
Whale fat,
and
Yeah.
whale fat and all that kind of, and seal and all that kind of stuff. They would come in and pillage and plunder
Yeah.
and just make, and they were diplomatic about it. I'm not going to say that they were all barbaric,
Yeah.
but they came in, and they were really choosy, I guess is the best part of it. They
Mhm.
weren't that horrible of people. And they
Yeah.
came in and I'm like that, and they really made a mess. And these monks or these commoners
Mhm.
would look at these skyscrapers coming in with shields and swords going, "Oh
Oh,
my goodness."
no.
Right?
I'd be terrified. Like,
Right,
I don't stand
right,
a chance. Like, I don't know what you want, but you can have it. It's yours. Here's the car. Here's the house. Take whatever you need.
exactly. Here, here, here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so
would be terrifying, though.
the
Yeah.
difference in the food. And
Right.
I think when we get down to it, the difference in how the Vikings ate versus other
Mhm.
Europeans at that time, other Europeans were really into the farming.
Mhm.
And so they would eat a lot of wheat, especially the poor.
Mhm.
A lot of the poor people would starve, first of
Right.
all, and if they did get food, it would be wheat and bread and porridge and other like items, right?
Yeah.
Out of
Yeah.
the ground.
Agricultural ground, and
Exactly.
fruits and vegetables.
Whereas the Vikings were mostly meat-based,
Yeah. Well, that's
and
what they had access to.
exactly. I mean, when 9 months out of the year is the
And they're
ground
at
is covered in
sea.
snow, what are you
Mhm.
gonna do?
Yeah. Well, it makes me think of, like, the Eskimos in
Right.
Alaska, right? And there was this really, really famous researcher in the early 1900s, Villemir Stephenson, who he was a philosopher, he was a doctor, and he spent a year with the Alaskan
Inuit.
Eskimos, yeah, with
Yes,
the
Inuit.
Inuit. They
Uh-huh.
those words were blending in my mind right now, the Inuit Eskimos, and, his reports and his biographies for when he returned and throughout that time was saying that, he was in the best health of his life, and he had never felt more full of vibrancy, and he'd never felt more healthy, and this is a field where he'd studied, and had concentrated a lot of time and a lot of effort, much not too much different than you and I are doing right now in our studies. But upon his return to New York, which was a year later, so after a year in the Alaskan tundra, he returns back to Belmont Hospital in New York, where he then did a like nutrition ward where he admitted himself into the hospital for a year under close scrutiny of some, key physicians and all he ate was meat, right? He was on a carnivore diet, and by the end of the year, there were no instances of disease, no signs of cardiovascular disease, no concerns regarding cholesterol, and again, he was the picture of health, right? So he goes from eating this diet that our ancestors were eating, and even though the limitations from the, like, Alaskan tundra, right?
Mhm.
You're eating a lot of fish, right? Maybe you're getting some elk or some moose. I mean, if they're up there, maybe some bear
Caribou.
at the time, caribou, right? You have to think of the time period that all of this is happening in, and kind of then he can apply those principles to real life and what this looks like, and I mean, it was incredible. So, when you think about what the Vikings could have been eating and the picture of health that they were likely in, and I mean, it's evident in their stature and their size and their muscular ability, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
no
Athletic
wonder.
ability.
No
Yeah.
wonder. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And they did imbibe in other stuff like meat and other things
Yeah.
too. So it wasn't like just they were just focusing on just fish or just elk or moose or caribou. It
Yeah.
was it was a blend of stuff, but it was I want to say around 85 to even 90% meat. And even if you during the winter, for example, the winter, what do you eat during the winter? Well,
Right.
it's either the stored stuff, but they
Mhm.
also had lutefisk. And I know there are people out there that are going to be like, "Oh, lutefisk."
What is
Lutefisk
that?
is where you take a barrel of herring
Mm.
and you put lye in it
Mm.
and you
Yum.
store it. So
Right.
it's kind of like pickled herring, but it's with lye.
Mm.
And the Vikings made use of that. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
I've actually had it in Norway. It's not that bad, but to have it here in America, it's pretty
No.
rough because Americans they can't match the
No. The
consistency.
cultural flavors, we'll say.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So I do not have it here. But
Well,
in Norway, they still make it traditionally like the Vikings did, and it is actually pretty good. Would
cool.
I eat it on a daily basis? I don't know. I am not sure if I could.
Yeah.
But lutefisk. So the Scandinavians in the audience, they're like, "Oh, lutefisk, lutefisk," because things are getting bad if you're dipping into the lutefisk.
Mm. I can see where we're going. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So yeah, things were getting pretty tight around.
yeah.
Like, no more meat? No, just lutefisk. Oh,
Oh, no. I'd rather go hungry, right?
right,
Well
right.
well, thank you for such an incredible, like, backstory and history of the Vikings. I'm sure I'm
Absolutely,
if it's something that is really important to you, it's part of your culture, it's part of your heritage, and not
absolutely.
only is it a great reminder of, like, where we have adapted from, right? This is
Right,
our history as a species, right? Primitive life was a reality not too long ago, right?
exactly.
So, it's really, really cool, I think, that you're still not only, like, in tune with your heritage, but able to be so knowledgeable to share it with people like me who are like, "I don't know a darn thing about the Vikings other than there's A football team, B, I know they're from Norway and, those Nordic countries somewhere between North America and Europe," right? That's
Right.
the general area where most people are gonna associate, and then, I wonder what they ate." Well, kind of looking like a majority of a carnivore type diet, right? And I think that's incredible. So thank you for sharing that with us. I really
Oh, you're
appreciate that.
welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome. And that's where I kind of wanted to go into where you stand on the carnivore explanation. If you were
Yeah.
to stop a person today and they were to ask you, for example, what is your definition of carnivore? Would you include anything other than just meat in it, or is it
Mhm.
100% meat?
Wow. I mean, that's a tough conversation. I think one of the easiest ways that I like to explain carnivore, especially for somebody who might just be getting started on this way of eating, I think there's a variety of things that we can include in carnivore, right? There's that broad term of, well, if it comes from the animal, it's carnivore,
Right.
right? But I think that in understanding and being able to help somebody go carnivore, I think there's a lot more that you need to take into consideration, right? You need to first off know their metabolic state, right? Are we in a situation with metabolic syndrome, which I want to get into more with you in a little bit?
Okay.
Are we already pretty metabolically healthy and are we trying to like lose a little bit of weight, maybe tone up? Are you trying to bulk, right? Are you trying to get over some autoimmune issues, right? We need to take in all of these facets of health before we can sit and say, well, I think that this is the best way for you to go carnivore. So if somebody off the street came up to me and was like, hey, I think I want to go carnivore, my easiest answer is just going to be that basic meat, salt, water. That's all you need. Fatty red meat,
Right.
salt, and water.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
Then there's, Dr. Paul Saladino in his book, The Carnivore Code, he offers like, I want to say 4 or 5 different like tiers of carnivore, right? So you've got like your meat, salt, water group, and then you've got like your meat, salt, water, eggs group. And then, you can add cheese, you can add dairy, you can add milk. Some add honey, right? And
right.
then there's your group with your organ meats. You're getting the liver, the heart, the brain, the tongue. You're getting all of those really nutrient dense vital organs. But for somebody who's just kind of getting started, I'd really rather not like scare them away with like organ meats right out the gate, right? Myself, I'm not even to organ meats yet. I think I'm kind of leaning down the supplement road. You can actually get organ blends in your ground meat now. You can get like a 50-50 organ blend.
Oh, I did not know that.
It still scares me a little bit. Like, I know people are like, "Oh, liver is delicious and heart is delicious." It's a mental block there for me, but, if that doesn't bother you, then go for it because those are really nutritionally dense pieces of the animal, and it really aligns if, like, eating nose to tail is something that's personally in your philosophy of how you wanna live, like, a holistic life, then that's a great way to go. But if you're just gonna bump into me off the street, yeah, fatty red meat, salt, water, eggs, bacon. That's my top 5. That's what I live on these days. So
And what do you tell people when they are hesitant or they'll tell you, I can't eat meat? What do you say?
why can't you eat meat?
Ah, so you go right for the jugular there.
I do, like,
Mm.
there's a lot of arguments to the carnivore case, right? Case
Right.
for the carnivore diet, right?
Yeah,
What about the saturated fat? Well, actually, that's been pretty disproven over the past few years, right?
absolutely.
What do you mean you can't eat meat? Does it not make you feel good? Do you have a bad reaction to meat? Like, I just kinda start digging. So, yeah, I guess I go for the jugular.
I
Like,
ran into a person who had bariatric surgery about a decade ago, and
no,
they
I don't
said
know.
they cannot eat meat because I was trying to convince them that for all of their ailments, the
Mhm.
carnivore, have you tried carnivore? And he first said, I have tried everything. And he
No,
said,
you haven't.
sometimes my hands swell up, sometimes I feel horrible, and I have to wait for the swelling to go down. So
Mhm.
I sat there and well, have you tried carnivore? Have you tried carnivore? He's, well,
Right.
what's that? And then finally I said, it's a meat-based diet.
Yeah.
What kind? Now, I have to tell you, Courtney, we met pheasant hunting.
Okay.
So he's an avid hunter.
Uh-huh.
and so am I. So we both eat game. So
Right?
this whole thing where he can't eat meat
Doesn't add up. The
doesn't
math
add
is
up.
not mathing here.
No, unless his wife is the meat eater. So I sat there and I kind of quizzically kind of
Yeah.
asked him, like what's wrong, and then he showed me some of his pictures because I always get into these conversations. I don't know if this happens to you or not, but us in the medical community, as we're trudging along this medical path, people start showing you their ailments. So they'll
Yeah.
get out their phone and be like, "What do you think about this X-ray? What do you think about this? I have ED." Like, I'm
It's not
out.
funny, but, like, yeah. I'm not that kind of doctor. I'm not the doctor that helps people.
So yeah, so he showed me
That's
all
a
of his
joke. We totally
ailments.
will be helping people when we're done with this, but, like, that's the easy cop out answer for the PhD is, I don't help people, right?
Right, right,
But that's
exactly.
your
So yeah.
that's your escape clause.
So yeah, don't tell me your medical history right
History.
now. Wait,
Yeah.
just
This is
wait.
not the time or place for this. Like,
But he did. He pulled out his cell phone and he started going through all of the ailments that he's like the
yeah,
broken bones
yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. And he finally
the
said,
whole history.
"Oh yeah, I got it all." And so I just kind of left it at that. I'm like, well, if you ever want to try it, it's the carnivore diet. It's up to you and your medical community if you want to pursue this
Sorry.
or not.
Don't mean to laugh.
No, I think the whole thing's funny, but
It's yeah,
not on his case. But
no,
it's
no.
just it's interesting because people will give ailments,
Mhm.
and if you're out in the audience and you find yourself doing it and you're listening to people's advice and you really want people's advice, well, first of all, you have to ask yourself, am I just complaining?
Mm.
And or do you want advice? Because when you
There's
kind
a
of start
difference.
complaining, you're soliciting for their commentary and their advice. And if you
Mhm.
go into a community of medical doctors or people in a medical setting,
Yeah.
you're going to get medical answers. So you
Mhm.
got to be prepared if you're showing a medical student your broken leg
Right.
on an x-ray, you're going to get comments here.
Yeah.
And if you say my hands swell, I have an autoimmune disorder, I've tried everything, and the person says, have you tried this,
Mhm.
you may want to kind of consider it.
Consider right. And, it's interesting because it's like oftentimes this population of people, like you've painted the picture, they are seeking help, right?
Right.
And that's why we're here at the end of the day is to truly help people to get healthy. I mean, I love research. That's where I'm going, but, like, I also have a really big part of my heart that really wants to help people to get healthy and to live this life of optimal wellness, right? So, when you come to me and you're seeking a response for whatever your condition is, right? It doesn't matter if you're textbook healthy and maybe you just wanna lose those next 5 pounds, right?
Right.
That's so many people in the world. I just need to lose 10 pounds. Doctor says I'm good. Labs look good. I need to lose 10 pounds. Hey, guess what my answer is going to be? I'm not going to sit here and I cannot sit here and give recommendations that, hey, go have a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast. Hey, by the way, that oatmeal is loaded with glyphosate and oxalates that are going to wreck your metabolic health, right?
And
I
not
can't
only
sit
that,
here and
sugar.
say, no, yeah, totally. I mean, it's so much sugar. At the end of the
Right.
day, it's what a carbohydrate is. You and I
Exactly.
have had extensive biochemistry, macronutrient and micronutrient biochemistry. All carbohydrates break down to sugar.
In the bloodstream, yep, and it spikes insulin.
Yep. I don't care how much fiber you have. I don't really care about how many, fruits you wanna add to the plate, which heaven forbid is not helping your situation, right?
Right.
You don't need fiber. You don't
No.
need carbs of any kind. They are not essential. There is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. You
Your
need
body makes glucose.
yeah,
It's just the natural process of it.
right, and I mean, the protein breaks down to glucose, right? So you can have a steak, just a steak, and about an hour later, your blood glucose is gonna be around, 200, and it's going to be stable for the rest
Right.
of the day. Like you might see a spike, but you're not going to experience that crash, right? You're not going to have that drop in your energy levels because of eating carnivore. You're going to see your energy go up. You're going to see the
Exactly.
results that you're looking for. You're going to see the metabolic health improvements. And if you think that your autoimmune disorder isn't going to clear up, well, then I'm going to go ahead and refer you to Michaela Peterson because she has something to say,
Right.
like tell me your autoimmune isn't going to clear up. Let me find you the one person on this earth that we know who's had the most intense autoimmune disorders, who
Right.
has
I,
completely healed herself on carnivore. Like,
I could not imagine.
no.
I'm not sensitive at all. I'm allergic to cats.
Yeah.
That's
Same.
it. So
And
I don't
very
know if I could
same.
eat a cat, but all the
But
cat lovers out there be like, no.
to have your system so aggressive in that attacking myself mode, right?
Right.
Where if you veer even just slightly, like, I saw her on an interview and it was, what do you have for breakfast? Strip loin. What's for dinner? Strip loin. What do you eat? Strip loin. If you have anything else, she has a reaction, right? And it
And
kind of comes down to like, you can kind of pick and choose. Like once you learn your body, you can say, well, this is what I like best because it works best for my body. And I know that if I have this, then I'm going to expect that reaction,
mhm,
right? But having the power to choose to induce that reaction is empowering, right?
yes,
It's
absolutely.
it's
So
that freedom, but
and
you also
for
know that it's still the best thing for your body,
right,
right?
and for all of the audience out there, Michaela Peterson cannot even have aged meat.
No.
The process of aging creates an enzymic reaction. And
Mhm.
that, in and of itself, causes her autoimmune to flare up.
Flare up.
So she has to have fresh off the bone,
Mhm.
just diced up and cut right there.
Mhm.
Otherwise, she gets an autoimmune attack.
It's
And
wild.
I'm so grateful. If anybody out in the audience has anything, I am so sorry.
Mhm.
And I wish the best on you because I can have, if I want to, I can have a little bit of mushrooms and onions if I wanted to on my
Mm.
steak, for example, and I don't react to it. And my heart genuinely goes out to people who are allergic to stuff. I actually had when I was younger, I actually had an allergic reaction to corn, and
Mm.
then the doctor said I actually grew out of it. But then I'm thinking in my younger days, as I had some high fructose corn syrup, I'm wondering if I actually had a reaction to that.
Mm.
So I try to avoid all corn-based everything now.
Right. Well, I
But
mean, it is the number one most genetically modified
yeah.
food that we have available to us. Sorry,
Right.
I throw up the air quotes a lot.
Oh,
It's
no,
kinda
that's fine. That's fine.
right, like, it's the reality is the corn that you get today, I don't care what it's in. It could be straight corn off the cob from the field in New Jersey. It can be in the cornbread that your grandma made. It can be in the packages, right? If you look, just about everything on the market has corn in some form.
Right.
But, like, most people don't realize that the corn that you're eating today is not the corn that the Native Americans had, right? The incidence of negative reactions that result from corn are because of the modifications that have happened to it, not just the glyphosate that is sprayed on it, right, to prevent the bugs from getting to it and to optimize the growth, but this corn has been modified a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit more over all of these years
Right.
for color, for ripeness, for flavor, for
Yeah.
sweetness, for salty, for all of these different
Us.
varieties. What
Yeah.
else do you like? What else is there? Like, it's not just corn anymore.
Right. You have corn for your typical farm,
Mhm.
right? To feed cattle and pigs and all that. And then you
Mhm.
have the ones that you can
Which is
pick
not
right up.
human corn. It's not the type that
Right.
you eat on the dinner plate.
You've got one that you can grill up on the grill, So corn on the cob, or you can leave in the
Mhm,
husk and grill
mhm.
that. That's actually delicious too. But I haven't had one in 7, 8 years.
Wow.
Anyway, and so, but if people ask me, that's what I say is just leave it in the husk, throw it in the oven for 40 minutes and then bring it out. It's perfect, right? It's steamed.
Yeah.
But anyway, so audience, don't do that.
Don't eat corn.
Don't eat corn
You don't
because
need
yeah, you don't need it.
it
Uh,
has nothing to offer you. You will get nothing from the corn other than, like, temporary satisfaction in the world of instant gratification. That's
right.
all you're getting. That's all you're getting.
That's
Just
yeah.
go eat the butter. Just go melt some butter and sprinkle some salt on. You'll it's the same thing. Except it'll actually, be good for your hormones. Like
And then you have the sweet ones, for kettle corn and
Mhm,
popcorn and all
mhm,
that kind of stuff. So you have varieties of corn that way.
mhm.
So there's several different varieties of corn that you can get, and people grow them for specific purposes, for specific um, eating, I guess,
Right.
use. And all of them are genetically modified.
Mhm.
And that's the important part. And where I was going with this in the first place, you got to keep me on track. Where I was going with this on the first track is that, and what I try to do with my chickens is I try to limit their corn and their
Corn.
feed
Yeah,
and they're free fed, although it's hard when there's 2 inches of snow on the ground,
for
right?
sure. Yeah.
So that's difficult, but I do throw out other stuff, to them and stuff like that. And chickens are omnivorous, believe it or not.
Mhm,
So they'll eat
mhm.
meat as much as they will other things, grains and
Right.
stuff,
Yeah.
and seeds. So it's interesting. But if you feed a chicken corn, then if you have somebody in the family who has a sensitivity to corn, then
Mhm,
their eggs will cause an allergic reaction or a
mhm.
breakout.
Right. A
And
flare up.
so a lot of people who are sensitive to corn
Are
eat
sensitive to
chicken
eggs.
eggs and then they say, I'm allergic to eggs. And is
Right.
it because of the eggs or is it because of the corn that was fed
Corn.
to the chicken? So,
That's interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So I argue game is best. Wild
Sure.
game is best. And people will say, well, that's cruel, that's unusual. Why don't you just get it farm raised?
Right.
Okay. Well,
Yeah. No, thank you.
There's factory farms, and then there are pasture raised farm
Mhm,
animals.
mhm.
Pasture raised farm animals are better than industrial farms. They feed soy and grains to these animals and they slaughter them young and early.
Mhm,
And the meat is high in omega 6s,
mhm.
and they're also
Which is
highly
inflammatory, right? For people who don't
exactly.
because people think you gotta get your omega-3, 6, and 9, but omega-6 is incredibly inflammatory.
Exactly. So you have that problem when an animal goes out and eats wild stuff, just,
Mhm,
a deer, for example,
mhm.
and they're eating brush and grass and everything like that. And you take the game, you take
Mhm.
the meat, it's high in omega 3s, believe it or not. And the flavor is robust, and that's when
Mhm.
people say it tastes gamey, and it's because we have acclimated our tastes to taste the corn sweetness,
Industrialized.
the
Mhm,
industrial sweetness, because the
mhm.
soy and the corn that's given to these animals make the
It's
meat sweeter.
deposited into the tissues. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
exactly, make it sweeter. And so you're tasting a lot of that seed oil, that corn,
Mhm.
that soy.
Yum.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're tasting. And
Yeah,
so when you a good thing to do for game, if I love the gamey flavor, but
right.
they say
It's
you
not
could
for
soak it in,
everybody.
not for
Yeah.
everybody. You could soak it in milk. That's one method.
I haven't heard that.
Right. You could also pour a little bit of baking soda and water and then rinse that
Mm.
in so that it kind
Mhm.
of like creates a wash kind of thing, and then
Mhm.
rinse that out. You could also put it in smoky, like a smoky brine, and that
Mhm.
also solves it too.
Yeah.
So those are
So
the
what kind of,
three.
like, smoky brine though, because then you're in, and like even with the bicarb, right? You're introducing these not animal based sources into your food. And like I know a lot of people, in the carnivore community, there's this debate over spices, right?
Right.
Well, spices are plants. So the goal here is to eliminate plants entirely from your diet,
Right.
therefore no spices, right? And we could sit down and talk about all of the different like,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
toxicity levels.
If you are not sensitive to these spices, then I don't see why adding spices to your life is, you know, but
If
if,
that's what you're going for though,
yeah, if
right?
that's what you're
If
going for.
that's Yep, yep.
Yeah. So if, for example, if you have problems with sage or basil, I
Mhm.
do have a little bit of a problem with basil, but I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. A
Yeah.
lot of basil just kind of gets me a little rough and tumbly inside, you know. I do add
I'm
spices.
wondering if that's the oxalates.
It could be. Or
Mhm.
it could be the oils because I do use
Right.
essential oils to clean my house.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I know. Here's another
Yep.
debate. I'd
Mhm.
rather use essential oils to clean my house than bleach
Yeah.
because bleach bioaccumulates in the liver.
Mhm.
And so you gotta weigh that. I don't want microorganisms crawling around on my
No.
tables and stuff like that. So
No.
I gotta
No.
kill those little boogers.
That's right.
Right, exactly. So a little bit of basil, a little bit of red thyme, a
Yeah.
little bit of melaleuca oil just
Yeah.
gets rid of them all. So I just
Yeah,
do that.
no, it's
And
good. It's
yeah,
holistic too, though. I mean, for those of you who are trying to live a very, very holistic lifestyle, right? They're trying to eliminate the toxics. And, we know that not only do these majority of household cleaners, even those that are marked like eco-friendly,
right.
right? A lot of the non-toxic ones, like they're still endocrine disruptors,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
They
Obesogens.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And it's just the inhalation alone
Right.
has an effect, right? So,
Exactly.
I'll even like raise my hand here as guilty because the other day I was doing some deep cleaning in the kitchen and I pulled out something that I just had in the cupboard. It's Odoban. And, on the back it even says like, don't use around humans or don't use around pets, right? So there's some sort of disclaimer on there. I'm not going to sit here and quote it, but, as I was spraying it on the counter, immediately I was coughing. And then my husband comes in the house and he starts coughing. He's like, "Whoa, what have you done?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just cleaned the counters, the kids have been home. We've all been had the ick lately." So I'm like, I thought I would try to give it a bit of a deeper clean by using this like, kills 99.99% of the germs, right? Just because I didn't have any natural cleaners or essential oils laying around the house to be able to do it in a more holistic way, right? I needed a clean house. We use what we got, right? Real
Right,
life,
right.
real life happens. And
Absolutely.
it was just really insane. Like, not only was I coughing immediately, but then I developed a headache for the rest of the day. And it's like these
Uh,
it's not just something that triggers you to cough. It actually affects your body. And I don't think that that message is out there
right. I
enough
think,
enough, right?
yeah, I think we need to get the message more out there.
Yeah.
Um, we need to stop with the toxic chemicals. Point
Mhm.
blank, live as holistic as we can. I,
Mhm.
like I said, I use essential oils to clean my house,
Yeah.
and that's just how I've been for the last 10 years.
Mhm.
I've had no problems, and I'm hardly ever sick.
Right.
So we could go on to this whole another thing with the smoked stuff is
Mhm.
the wood that people use in their barbecues to smoke. So I use
Mhm.
pecan,
Mhm.
walnut. I'm trying to think of applewood. Applewood is really good to smoke
Mhm.
with. If
Mhm.
you have a problem with any apples, any of those kind of things, then this could trigger a sensitivity as well.
It absolutely could.
And so kind of I caution people on that, don't be putting stuff on your barbecue grill that like
Mhm.
briquettes, for example,
No.
but also petroleum.
Lighter fluid on the briquettes?
Lighter fluid on the briquettes or
No.
even propane.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
any sort of alcohol, really.
anything petroleum based, anything that
Terrible.
yeah, absolutely. I could actually taste, when people use on their grills, if they use a gas grill.
Mm. Oh,
I
yeah.
can I can taste that. I
Yeah, it's
don't
different.
think a lot of people can unless they start transitioning to ketovore
Mhm.
to carnivore. I
Right.
really don't in that
Mhm.
realm. When they
Yeah.
start eating clean, and this is basically where we're at
Yeah.
in our podcasts, in
Right.
our whole life right now, is I'm trying to get people to eat clean wherever that lies, whether
Right.
it's on a just a ketogenic journey or if it's
Mhm.
a complete lion diet.
Yeah.
Anywhere in that scope, it's about eating clean. And on my YouTube channel, I say if you want to eat dirty sometimes, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll have something dirty, and that's
Mhm.
I don't. I think we should live our lives too.
Yeah.
It's not that we're imprisoned in this.
No, no.
And like birthday parties or weddings and funerals, if they're serving something that is off a little bit and stuff like that, and you
Mhm.
decide. This is
Y
your decision, this is your life.
Mhm.
If you want a little bit of this or a little bit of that, then I don't see
It's your
why
choice.
there's a death sentence on the end of
No.
that. uh
No.
where I go into the okay, we got to back it up. Where I go
Back, back,
is
back it up.
back it up. Start throwing the axes, I'm telling you. Is when it turns into 2 days, and then it turns in
Yeah,
well, 1
a
meal
weekend.
turns into 2 days, turns into 3 days, turns into 5 days, turns into a month. You gotta stop, you gotta get into the boat. I mean,
Mhm.
because after a meal
Mhm.
and everything like that, you're gonna feel horrible. After
Yeah.
a day, you're gonna
Right.
feel it, and then the propensity to get back into the boat after 3 days,
It's hard.
it is.
That
It
carb
is.
addiction, it hits quick and it hits hard too. And I will say, like, I don't think I have a very like addictive personality. I don't feel like I get addicted to things quickly, right? But the interesting thing is like that carb craving and that, oh, I can't get back in the boat challenge is because you are addicted, right? Your microbiome, and I mean, microbiome is a really hot topic right now. I would love to. I wish we had more time to go into all of that. Maybe we will on another call. But when you feed the bacteria in your GI system what it wants to be fed, which is carbohydrates,
Right.
right? When you feed that carb thriving bacteria, you're going to stimulate that desire for carbs, right? That's where those cravings come from, right? But the reality is, once you've allowed your system that 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it kind of really varies based on the individual. Once you've gotten through that keto adapted phase, hey, guess what? I don't crave sugar anymore. I don't feel like I am constantly yearning for a snack because I've optimized not just like my approach to eating, but my body is now used to this way of eating and is at this really incredible state of health where, you know what? The junk doesn't taste good anymore.
Right.
Mac and cheese doesn't tempt me anymore, right? You reach this level where you go, I could eat a bite of that, but I really don't. Earlier, we're talking about how you kind of pick and choose how you wanna feel, right? If you wanna be tempted by whatever is at the birthday party, that's your choice, right? Live your life, enjoy your life, but also once you are in this state where you feel good and you're operating at 100%, and you know that if I eat even just the smallest bit of that mac and cheese, I know I am gonna feel miserable. And I know that this is gonna make me want carbs later in the night. I'm gonna want to just allow myself more, right? Oh, I've already had something. My day is already off. It just gets easier to justify continuing on that derailment, right?
Mhm.
But I think most people don't know how incredible you feel when you're eating this way. They think that the carnivore diet's gonna be restrictive, right? Like,
Right.
"Oh, I could well, what about variety, and what about this, and what about that, and I could never just eat meat, salt, water," right? You say that because you don't know how your life is gonna change in all aspects. You don't know
Oh,
how
yeah.
your mental health is gonna clear up. You don't realize your anxiety is gonna go away. You don't realize you're gonna be off your depression medications. You don't realize your body weight is gonna start to decrease, like,
Oh,
y
yeah, yeah.
you could do this all day, you know?
Right, right. I thought I was at a good place. I had
Mhm,
been ketoing for, at that time, about 14 years. And I was in this stage, we'll put it in the ketogenic kind of way, but I was kind of ketovore. I was kind of going back and forth for about
yeah,
14 years.
mhm,
And I had a cheat day. Tim Ferriss writes a book called The 4 Hour Body.
mm,
And so every Thursday after the great toilet paper crisis of 2020, I started I started going into this whole, like, I could have a cheat day. And so Thursdays became I'll go to
mm,
Starbucks, I'll have a frappuccino, and I'll have one cheat meal. So that was my
mm,
cheat thing. And I felt good. I wouldn't
mhm,
say I was fantastic. Now that I look back, I wasn't fantastic.
mhm,
And I kind of switched into the ketovore realm for about a year. And I was bouncing back and forth, and then I saw Dr. Ken Berry's stuff, and then I ended
mhm,
up on Homestead How as well, and a
mhm.
few other channels too. I was like, "Oh, I don't know about this carnivore." As you were saying,
Yeah,
you're like, "Wait a minute, I can't have that anymore. I can't do this
mhm.
anymore. I can't. What am I gonna make? What am I gonna do?"
Yeah.
I decided. I was like, all right, it's time." I went full carnivore because
Mhm.
I'm a go big or go home kind of person. So I decided that June
Same.
1st, I was going to go 100% carnivore. And I did. And so 30 days went by and I felt amazing.
Mm,
60 days went by and I was like,
even better.
I can't even compare. And yeah, because I was kind of battling a size 14 to 12,
Mm,
in that range and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, my 12 started falling off.
I love
I
it.
was like, "Well,
Yep.
look at that." And it got to the point where I was sitting there and I'm like sitting in the chair going, "Holy crap, I'm skinny and I don't even know where this weight came off."
Yeah.
I have this challenge going on with myself. Kind of fell off last 2 weeks because of family issues,
Love
but
yeah.
I've been trying to get to an 8-minute plank. I used to do
Okay.
planks all the
Wow.
time. And
Yeah.
8 minutes was my max. So I'm going to try to
Wow.
meet and then beat that.
That is
But
an incredible plank record. I mean,
right,
that is wild because I mean, planks people don't realize that planks activate those deep abdominal muscles, those transverse abdominal muscles. It doesn't really, like, fire your rectus abdominis, which are those show muscles, right? That six pack. But you've got abs that go this way, and you have abs that go this way on the
right,
backside, right? And planks require these guys, not these guys. So it's funny because you can see, these really fit guys, who clearly work out and hit the gym all the time, and they're just in great, physique, who can't do a plank
right.
because they haven't built up the transverse abdominis. They've only built up the rectus, and it's really interesting how if you don't work one, you can seriously affect the other. So that's amazing. Like, that's amazing. I could not do an 8-minute plank, but
Oh
good
yeah,
for you.
yeah. I'm up to 6 minutes. So
That's
getting
still
there, getting
wild.
there.
It's
Yeah.
the planking challenge of '09, right? I'm just gonna walk by Misty's or just planking on a table in a store. It's just, "I gotta get my 6 minutes." Are you that kind of silly, or is it, like, in your workout routine?
It's in my workout routine. I've got a crazy workout routine, and
People were doing that though, like, I'm not just making this up, like, people would just go into places and just start planking, like,
in all seriousness, people would just go and do crazy stuff like that,
wild.
and I'm more
Let's
of
try it out. Let's see what happens.
so you know what I should do?
Let's
I
bring it
should
back. Let's
go.
go into Nordstrom and go planking.
Well, let me try it in the gym first because I usually do it at home. So
Yeah.
let me try it in the gym first and see some of these guys that come up to me and say,
You're
you
just
should,
gonna walk by like,
right? Exactly. Yeah, I should just read something.
break out that dissertation proposal.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Sit there and type while I'm,
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
oh,
So,
oh, so here we
what
are.
yeah, we're coming down the home stretch here.
Yeah.
I think this has been a really great chat.
Oh, absolutely. I wanna
Covered a
do
lot of
more of it.
topics.
I this has been awesome. I don't know where oh, I wanted to say one more thing. So I
Mhm,
learned a really good word that I might use on my website and
mhm.
my journey. It's Coddiwomple.
Coddiwomble.
Coddiwomple.
What does this mean?
Coddiwom. Oh, it's pull. Ple. Coddiwomple. I can't read my
Coddiwomble.
handwriting apparently.
It's late.
Coddiwomple. It's
What
the
does this
intent.
mean?
Oh, it means the intention. I didn't write down what it means, so I'm gonna have to remember this.
Hey, everybody, we have a new word for you. It's
Um,
something so far out that you've never even heard it. You think it's made up. I'm here to
now,
teach you about
no,
this word.
you need a Compywomple. I'm telling you. So, Cottywomple means to take an intentional journey to a destination unknown.
Oh, I love that.
Yes,
You know,
and it fits
continue.
carnivore.
Totally.
It's. I think we should name this Cottywomple.
This is your Coddiwomble journey.
Yes.
Yeah, I recently had a call with a mutual friend of ours, JT from Poco Moonshine Fam,
Okay. Okay.
and, you know, we that day, the day before or whatever, maybe it was the day after, but either way, I was talking with JT and we were talking about, like, the carnivore journey and, like, the whole process of how one really gets to where they are with becoming carnivore, and, like, for
Right.
me, that's, like, a really complex thing, but the point of my story is that was on a Friday, maybe it was church on Sunday, and the pastor was talking about how he compared a journey to a road trip. There's a difference. When you're going on a road trip, you know when you're leaving, you know where you're going, you know where you need to stop for gas, you know there's gonna be snacks along the way, and you know where you're gonna be at the end, right?
Right.
A journey is completely different. You have a destination in mind, right? And you know that there are gonna be bumps in the road, there are gonna be hills, there are gonna be valleys, you know there are gonna be obstacles, there are gonna be detours. But the thing about a journey is that you're going down this road and you don't necessarily know where it's gonna take you. So this could be the best thing that you've ever embarked on, and sometimes in life you take a journey and it's not the best thing, right? I think
Right.
right now we're in an actual acute situation, so to say, where we've got people who are probably starting some health journeys. It's the beginning of the new year, right? We've
Mhm.
got New Year's resolutions, we've got new documentaries coming out, and people are being led down one specific journey. But for me, that journey ended in a lot of lack of optimal health. And I think here with the carnivore journey, it's almost more like a road trip than a journey because we know where you're going to go at the end. We might not know exactly how we're going to get there, but we know where you're going to be. If you can stick to this and you can show up for yourself and you can truly dedicate to that lifestyle, right? And you choose to be so intentional about what you do and what you eat, you can pinpoint exactly where you're gonna be. I don't know how long it's gonna take you to get there, but we can get you there. And I just think that that's incredible. I don't know. I've just been thinking about that lately.
There's another word that I like to use is circumbendibus,
Mm,
and don't ask me to spell it,
no. No, thank you.
but it's to veer off in different directions in a
Mm,
journey.
mhm.
So take a circumbendibus route.
Circumbendibus.
You're kinda taking the long road, the scenic route.
I love the same route.
Right, exactly, and I think that's where if you're not on a cottywomple, you're taking the circumbendibus route.
And now we've lost them altogether. Everyone's like, I'm out. I don't even know what they're speaking anymore.
I know. So, well, I'm gonna give a cheers to everybody.
100%.
Let's go.
Get my water.
Mm. All right.
Well,
All
this
right.
was a lovely first chat.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
I think
100%.
we'll be doing this a little more frequently.
Oh, yeah. So, audience, stay tuned because we have a lot to talk about.
A lot. I mean, we have Ph.D. journey to talk about. We had planned to go there today, but we didn't get there. That's okay. They're seeing
Right?
personality today. What else are we gonna talk about?
See. Oh, the new documentary that's out on Netflix.
I just hinted at that one too,
Yeah, so
which claims to be like, evidence-based and research-backed, so we're gonna sit here and debunk that one piece by piece for you. I'm actually really excited.
absolutely, because I've
Yeah,
got notes and I'm gonna make more
read
notes as
'em.
we go.
Totally. Yeah.
Exactly.
I refuse to watch it. That's where I'm at. At least you're watching it, you can give us that perspective of what actually happens in the movie, but, like,
I'm
I
taking the
I
sacrifice, so
I refuse to participate in the vegan propaganda that can contribute to their views, you know? I can't do it.
this might be as bad as a blood eagling, but
I
I'm,
think we'll probably have a whole episode on this.
I hope so. I
Maybe
hope
this will
so
be a new
because
series, Holistic Carnivore meets Ketoing Viking. All
yeah,
the things, all the
let's
things.
do it.
Yeah.
Because we are in this next year together. I hope not a
Yes.
year. I am so sorry. I hope I get my PhD before this year's done.
That we just got off a call. You and I were both expecting to be done this fall, and she was like, 4 semesters if you're
This
trucking it. And I'm like, that's
uh,
excuse me while I tape the gas pedal to the floor because I'm not ready for another 4 semesters.
right, right. So
I
this
think
is
we're
gonna
just gonna
be
blow it out of the water though. That's
oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You're doing your study, I'm doing my study.
Yep.
We're gonna talk about this next week.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah,
all
let's
of
come back
those,
every week.
yeah, every week.
Let's make
Let's
that
let's
commitment. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely every Monday. And
I love
I'll
it.
get this up to all my audience here
Yeah,
as soon as I can.
yeah.
Audience, if you're still tuned in and haven't tuned out yet, I applaud you. But
Yeah.
I urge you to check out my channel more
Mhm.
and check out all of the recipes that I have. Some of them are on the ketogenic side, some of them are on the dirty ketogenic side. But I have carnivore and ketovore recipes up for you guys.
And they're
So
incredible. I've
I
watched
mean,
so many. They are incredible. Yes.
I'm trying. I still have a couple of failures. I should post more failures. I should because I pulled
That's
out some of
reality. That's people try to make these Pinterest-like recipes, and sometimes, sometimes they hit the floor, actually.
this one hit the floor like a brick. I pulled it out of the air fryer, expecting it to be this beautiful leavened
Souffle.
cake
Yeah.
like structure, carnivore, and it looked
Yeah.
like a pancake that was as
Oh,
hard as a
no.
rock.
Oh, no. That's a flop.
And
Flop, flop,
the
flop.
stuff's expensive too. So
Mhm. That's the thing. You're spending money on ingredients and whew. Well,
yeah, it's
we appreciate your recipes. I know that you have a massive treasure trove of options out there you have appetizers, you have main dishes, do you have treats on there too?
treats. They're more ketogenic than they are
Yeah.
carnivore. I'm trying. I'm trying to
Okay.
come up with some. I want it delicious. I don't want people to try it and say, "Nah,
This
it's
kinda
not."
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm always in my test kitchen throwing stuff, ingredients together, and if
Well,
it
I love it.
turns out, then I'm like, get the camera."
The reality of being a content creator.
Right, exactly, exactly. And then I get it on the table and I have all my test subjects eat it. Some of them
Uh-huh.
like it, some of them love it, some of them hate it, some of them poke at it,
This is feedback from the reviewers.
right? And
We re
then I
we
get this
require
question, how did you make it?
mm,
Well, I don't know how I made it.
it just happened.
It just I threw things together in a pan and
Yep.
that's what happened.
No
And
recipe. Nope.
so my sister, so just really quickly, so my sister is saying, okay, all right, we got a challenge for you. It's called goulash, whatever you're gonna throw in. So I guess I'm gonna go into the fridge or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. She's got something for me. It's a
Mhm.
challenge. And we joked. I said, in the fridge. Okay. So I looked in the fridge. There was there was a couple of items, but there was a jar of pickles and,
Okay.
and there was a thing of sour cream in a fridge. We needed to go shopping. So I needed
Mm.
to do some serious shopping. But
Sour
I
cream and
said, what I could
pickles.
do, I could get the pickles up,
Sounds like a pregnancy craving.
throw in the sour cream and call it sour cream goulash.
Oh gosh.
Yum.
Interesting. What
I
was
would do
that
that.
what was that Viking dish you named earlier?
Oh, the
The
lutefisk?
There you go.
Yes, the lutefisk. Yeah,
Yep.
ooh, ooh. Fiskeballers. I could make fiskeballers.
Interesting.
Fish balls.
Well I am gonna have to let you go. I
Absolutely.
look forward to our next chat next Monday. We will do this again.
Absolutely. Yeah, I gotta
Alright.
go get myself ready for the battle tomorrow. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
all right.
Back to work, back to school, back to life. Hats off to you. Here we go.
Hats
Starting
off
a
to
new
you
journey
too.
today.
Hats off to
So,
you. All right,
cheers,
hon.
friend. I'll talk
Skull.
to you. Bye.